are 7 players that I am out on for their ADP. So I did a best ball draft on Underdog, their big board draft last night. And I was doing the draft. I had some hits. I had some misses. You can go on to my Twitter account. Follow me at FFStalder. And you can see who I drafted, who you thought I really hit on, or if I made some mistakes. But there are 7 players. I'm going to go through one for the first 7 rounds, one per round. I'm going to identify players that I am totally out on, where they were drafted based on the round. So this may not be like tough ADP, because right now, I mean, my drafting last night impacted the ADP. So we're so early into this, but the initial reaction in this draft, right? And you aren't drafting usually for any amount of money unless you have a little bit of insight as to what's going on, at least right now in the best ball streets. The first player that I'm out on based on where they were drafted, Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry, very early in the first round, his ADP seems to be running back 2 or running back 3. And he was selected as the 1.02 in the draft I did last night. There's no way I want to draft Derrick Henry, who's an aged running back, can't catch the ball, has operated on extreme efficiency, lost his offensive coordinator, coming off of a pretty significant injury where he had 5 screws in his foot. There are more ways that this can fail than work out for Derrick Henry, especially given the emergence of Devonta Foreman. Like, he was useful in a part-time or a more full-time role down the stretch for the Tennessee Titans. So I could envision Devonta Foreman, if he re-signs with Tennessee Titans, getting some work behind Derrick Henry in a more significant way than we've seen backups with Derrick Henry in the past. All right, fast forward to the second round. And the second pick of the second round at the 2.02 in this best ball draft was Javonte Williams. We don't know if Melvin Gordon is going to return to the Denver Broncos. He could not. I'm not sure. Nobody knows. But to have Javonte Williams as the 14th pick, I mean, he was the best rookie at juke rate among running backs. He's got a lot of skills. He's got a lot of talent. But Melvin Gordon still played really well last year despite the 50-50 split with Javonte. And I don't think that he's shown any signs of giving up more than 50% of that backfield. Plus, I don't think Mike Boone really eats into it anyways. The reality is Javonte Williams, you're buying him at the ceiling with the knowledge that we know now. Like, obviously, we don't know what's going to happen, and this is a hedge by the person thinking that Javonte Williams would be a mid-first-round pick. I'm just not buying Javonte Williams much right now without the clarity, so the 2.02 I'm avoiding. In the third round, DeAndre Hopkins, he's my third avoid based on the round ADP. Hopkins was selected in the third round, the 5th pick of the third round, so we're talking a top 30 player? Oh, no. DeAndre Hopkins in this draft was selected over Keenan Allen, was selected over T. Higgins, was selected over J.K. Dobbins or Deontay Johnson. I know that this is a half-point PPR, but DeAndre Hopkins, yes, he was injured last year, but that's not what was concerning. Concerning was the significant dip, about a 20% dip in his normal target share from previous years. And you're saying, well, a dip from 25% down to 20%, but down to a 20% target share shouldn't be a top 30 pick in any of the best ball. Like, DeAndre Hopkins doesn't have the ceiling that he once did. Like, he may still be valuable in PPR, he may still be a red zone threat, but he's inching ever so closely to 30 years old. I don't think he's quite 30 yet, but he has had the soft tissue issues. When he was younger, his body was able to hold up. I don't think that his body is able to hold up in the same way. At least that's what we saw last year. And the decrease in target share is also concerning for Hopkins. So there's no way I'm drafting him in the early third round or even the mid third round. In the fourth round, Terry McLaurin went 4.3, and McLaurin went ahead of the likes of Patrick Mahomes there, Travis Etienne, George Kittle, and Darren Waller went after Terry McLaurin. These are players that I feel like there's like a teardrop, and when you're selecting Terry McLaurin, he's like a low-end wide receiver too, unless Washington somehow lands an Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson this offseason. Terry McLaurin, he's limited by his offense. He's limited by just the quarterback play itself. I am concerned about Terry McLaurin delivering. I know he's been battling injuries, but I think he peaked a year and a half ago, and hopefully you were able to sell him dynasty leagues. In the fifth round, Devonta Smith was drafted at the 5'11", so at the back end of the fifth round, and Devonta Smith was drafted ahead of Michael Carter, ahead of Miles Sanders, ahead of Marquise Brown, players that are commanding a larger target share or that I think are going to be more involved in their team's offense. I know that Michael Carter fits into like that dead zone running back, but we don't know at this point, and Carter got a lot of touches. He was a running back too on average when he was out there getting double-digit touches. So I think that there's going to be manufactured ways for the New York Jets this year to get Michael Carter the ball. I know Devonta Smith gets a lot of air yard share and has a decent enough target share in this Philly offense, but the pie reduces for Jalen Hurts when he's the pass catcher. Like, he pulls passes out of the offense, and that affects the overall volume of Devonta Smith. So at the end of the fifth round, I mean, if you want to take your shot at Devonta Smith, if you're an Eagles fan, okay, fine. But there's not a reason that you should be drafting Devonta Smith in these types of best ball leagues that early. Okay, sixth round, Hunter Renfro. Yeah, Renfro's coming off a huge season. Why not buy into the hype? Well, you shouldn't buy into the hype because Darren Waller should be back and healthy. We don't know what the quarterback situation is going to be with Derek Carr. We know Hunter Renfro is a good NFL player, but to draft him in the tops as like your sixth best player, I mean, looking at this draft, I see like A.J. Dillon went around Hunter Renfro, Brandon Cooks, Odell Beckham. Give me Brandon Cooks or Odell Beckham over Hunter Renfro going into 2022. These are higher ceiling players, and the reason Hunter Renfro was able to level up was because Darren Waller was out and injured. Once Waller stepped back in, we saw Hunter Renfro's stats drop pretty significantly. All right, and the most egregious pick, I think, at ADP in the entire best ball draft, Corduro Patterson in the seventh round. He was drafted 7-12. And talk about desperate for running back. Patterson started as like a mid running back one. He dropped off to like a mid to back end running back two because Falcons just didn't know how to use it. They started running him between the tackles. It was like what they were using. The 49ers were using Deebo Samuel with. Cordero Patterson is useful catching passes. He's useful on sweeps, utilizing his speed and agility and his quickness, even at 29, 30 years old, 28 years old. He's a player who hadn't gotten much usage anyways early in his career. Yes, but Cordero Patterson is almost like the Mike Davis of last year, where he was in the right situation at the right time, and his talent was able to shine out just a little bit, but it didn't last very long because he can't handle big workloads. So, long story short, just to recap, each of the players in the particular round, 7 rounds, 1 player per round that I'm avoiding in those rounds: Derrick Henry in the first round, Javonte Williams in the early second round, DeAndre Hopkins in the third round, Terry McLaurin in the fourth round, Devonta Smith in the fifth, Hunter Renfro in the sixth, and Cordero Patterson in the seventh.